Hello, this is Victor at RestoreYourMercedes.com. This video is for Jim and Dillon in Wisconsin, Green Bay, Wisconsin. And here we have a wiring harness from a V12, a 95 S600. And it's laid on the floor here because it's too large to lay on the table. And I just want to go over details, what I see, some remarks, and basically all of it will be ready to go back to a customer. So obviously infamous mass airflow sensor looms were replaced with new cables and sealed up, packed up, wrapped up, just to make it look as close to factory as possible. Although there are some areas that I want to point out before we move on. Now, the way the harness was removed, it was removed with these vacuum hoses. Not necessarily, but they should have been with it, but whatever, if it works, that's great. So also harnesses came with camshaft sensors and crankshaft sensors. So that is a little unusual decision, but that's fine with me. I mean, usually the sensors can come out right here. This is number 2. I'm also missing a part of the harness that connects to the driver's, what is this, driver's side? Is it driver? Oh, yeah, this is a driver's side ignition module. It's supposed to be another extension with this kind of a connector. So I just there's only one. So I'm sure you guys have it all there lined up. So you will be able to reconnect them properly. And the blue tape, again, if this is for references. When it was removed, that's not touched. And that's fine, because if it was easier to remove the way it is, perfectly fine with me, because it's a big job, and I totally agree that it is something that you want to do once and never come back to it. So the rest of the wires are perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it except for those looms that I mentioned, mass airflows. So here we have our mass airflow number 1 here. Number 1 over here. This sits on the driver's side, and this is a secondary bank of injector of the cylinders. So plastic welded the connector, also layer of silicone inside to seal it off, because if moisture gets in there, it can alter readings. No good. So that's what I did. So this is now solid, and wires run along all the way through this big plug right there that I put it back together, go through and solder to the LH module's main connectors. So that's one of the sensors. These I just marked as camshafts, but I see you have a little reference here for camshaft position sensors. They're not super vital for engine running, but obviously you still want to connect them properly. So they go to these ignition module plugs. So that's that. Vacuum hoses as they laid out, they laying out the way they are, so I haven't touched none of that stuff. The crankshaft position sensor obviously will go back onto the engine, so we know where that goes. So this portion of the harness is sort of taken care of, so we know all about this harness, and you have your reference marks, so you'll be, I'm sure you'll be fine. I mean, putting it in, because even to remove this is not easy. So if this is a great job. Next, this is our passenger side portion. This is where the main computer box sits, like in this area. This is the main loom. It sits something like this, right? And it goes up the fender well, and then just kind of next to the fender edge and stuff. It just sits right there, and then it starts branching out. Here you have a main engine harness for injectors to connect to. This connector here. This, it says do not touch. I didn't touch, so this is, that's totally fine. That will go to be spliced on with the rest of the wiring harness, which is again fine with me, because I know that sometimes it's easier to splice them together on the vehicle than to disassemble half of the car to get these wires out. It's just like so much easier to join these versus removing the whole thing. Whenever it goes, it's a job and a half. So obviously that was a right decision, to me at least. I would have done it the same way. So passenger side. So we got this wire was loose in there, but this one is the passenger side crankshaft position sensor. So, and it says there PS, that's passenger side. I just put two tape marks here just to approximate where it should have been, and this is about where exactly the length should lay out in the loom. And as you can see, if everything lays out, it's about right. This connector go onto the ignition module that's on the passenger side of the car, and the bend of the wires seem to correspond to, you know, how sensor should be laid in the loom. So I just put two little reference points here, just so it's not just loose in the box. But I didn't wrap it because you might want to move it a little bit here and there, so might as well just to do that. Okay. What we have here, let's see. These are some grounds here. So passenger side ignition coil, that's what it is. I'm sure it is. Yeah, it's got to be ignition coil wire. Looks like it. Okay, so, but again, I cannot remember each and every single wire on this loom, but that appears to be ignition coil wire 1, and this appears to be ignition coil wire number 2. Okay. Electric fans, these are auxiliary fans. Okay, this is a very thick cable here for auxiliary fans. Intake air temperature sensor. So that's that. See, that's on the passenger side. We have those. On the driver side, we don't, because that was separately. It was separated from this loom, but it's okay. That's totally fine, like I said. But this is how they would have lay out, because on the driver side, you will also have a connector for the second fan. Okay, so now this is some sort of a switchover valve, not principal ignition modules here. These are the grounds. These grounds are really, they're right next to ignition module, in the vicinity of the module, because when the loom comes out, this is where grounds will end up, somewhere there, and this is the area where ignition module would have been installed, like somewhere there. So that's proper length. I left some wires open loose like this, so you have a little bit of a maneuverability, some space to move them a little bit, just in case. This is the mass airflow sensor connector number 2. This is the second one that sits on the passenger side, and this is EGR valve, switchover valve. I put my little annotation on it. It says EGR over there. If you see it, it says EGR. And this is a secondary one. This one could have been for upshift delay solenoid. Could have been that. Not critical, again, not principal. It's not, you know. Now, what's this? Switchover valve for what? That could be, you know what this could be? This could have been, this could be that the evap valve, one of the evaporative system valves. Could be that, most likely, based on the length. That makes sense. One of the evap valves on the passenger side. Again, this is our main harness here, connector, main harness connector for injectors. Moving along. Again, these wires were rewrapped because they were all loose. Everything was loose all over the place. Moving along, the wires enter through this grommet, silicone. The entry points are silicone. Now, these are our communication bus connectors. This wire, I did not want to go too crazy finding where this goes, but this gotta be the only one that has the same color, because I see some other wires that are cut off. It's like TD says do not touch. So this seemed to be a base module connection, so either base module or another, like another connector for something. But these wires, I kind of looked them up, and these seem to go to main power sources, to overall injectors and stuff like that. So that, you know, left bank, right bank, plus the module's power and all that. So that might be the base module or one of the splice connectors that goes to base module. Now this is where it gets a little more tricky. These are oxygen sensors. They're exactly same. but I wrote down somewhere, let's see. Well, these are oxygen sensors. You just have to, you know, if you have any problems with this, just call me. I'll let you know what's going on. I'll trace whichever side is where. I mean, there are two oxygen sensors, so there's left and right bank, and I just separated them so they, you know, right and left bank. This wire right here, the yellow and white, or white and yellow, faded kind of. What is that? Kind of like white and yellow, I would rather say. That's the heat of oxygen sensor connection. So these are together. These are together. Now these are diagnostics. The diagnostics on X38, the main diagnostic connector. Okay, right here, these two. That's from LH modules to to diagnostic connectors. Again, by wires you will know, obviously, because they're different. These are the same. So the oxygen sensor, I don't know if you have annotations made which one goes where, but this is what these are. Now there are two more coaxials that come out the main harness, and these are actually diagnostic ports for ignition modules. These are two coaxials. They're same color, so they're not color coded. The same color, they look exactly the same, and they go onto X11.4. That's like a round connectors, but I did put the note. Wait a second, is it? No, that's X38. I'm sorry. That's the X38, X34. Well, the big round 38 pin diagnostic plug. So I did put annotation, like on this one it says pin number 18. This is passenger side, and obviously this one will be pin number 17, just so you know, right there, number 17. It's because left and right coil, I mean, you want diagnostic to be connected to right ports, because, you know, if you're going to be diagnosing left bank and it's connected to the right, then it's a problem. So it's going to give you false readout, just in case. So in any event, you know, if we have any issues, I will have this video stored and I can rewatch it, and then you know, if you have any, you know, kind of problems, I can trace these wires, and we can definitely get them connected right. Mass airflow sensor wires, here they are, the new cables. They're all blue, same color, but they double checked on the actual pins based on schematic diagrams. I always do that. Make sure that each and every pin corresponds to the connector pin, from connector all the way down to the module pin. Obviously very important. All checked out fine, and also do one wire at a time anyway, so it's really hard to mess up. But because there was basically nothing left out of insulation, so color code could not be noted, and I had to like double check, triple check actually, before I would make the right connection. So everything is perfectly fine. And grounds also. Grounds are always number one on the connector here. See number one right there. So these are grounds. They go here. And last thing is the tabs. When I received the connectors, as you can see, there are tabs over here, 1 and 2. And this one is missing one on the right. It is not critical as long as this tab is in place, and even if it's broken, it can also be done. Basically, the purpose of the tab on the bottom is, see, like those tabs right there. The purpose of this tab is when you remove the computer, so the plug itself is not pulled. It isn't being pulled from the computer box, so the tab holds it in place. Now, this one is broken, so basically what you will need to do, if you ever need to remove, this is the secondary bank, I believe, LH2, and what you would need to do is basically remove computers, either control module from the left or to the right of the module, depending which, you know, the closest to this plug. Just hold it with a screwdriver and pull computer out. One of my plugs on my car is broken just the same way, so that's what I do. I just remove the computer next to it, put the screwdriver there, hold it in place, pull the module out from the plug so it remains in place. When you put the module in, it doesn't matter because it's not going to sink in, because you have this little tab here that's going to hold it from sinking down. And also guide pins here will guide the actual plugs, because they're all loose, and that's normal, that's proper. So there's a little play, so the guides on computers will guide the connector so all pins line up. And that basically will do for me. Now also the communication buses obviously are color coded. So you see this is probably carb, LH1, LH2, and ABS, ASR, yeah, these. So we're good to go there. And yeah, I think I covered everything. So I'm going to pack it the same way you send it to me in the box. So basically everything should lay out properly, and basically we should be good to go. These vacuum hoses, I have a feeling it's a green one. The green one, because ignition modules need vacuum connections. This appears to be ignition module right there, one of them at least. It goes down right here. Yeah, as you can see, it's right in the vicinity of ignition module. So that would probably go this would be a driver's side ignition module, and that will reach all the way on the passenger side. So this harness is gonna lay like this basically. That's the driver's side. Here's the passenger side. Just like that. Okay, just like this. Something like this. This is its exact layout. Engine facing forward. That's the front of the engine. So that's that. And this is the passenger side. So you would have vacuum tubes to follow up just like that. So yes, that's the vacuum hose for the ignition module on one of the ignition modules, because that's a secondary bank, and this will be pretty much primary bank must be. I don't know, I mean, it's just too much to think at this point, but again, this is how it should be laid out. I don't want to go super deep, the video is very long already, but this is how it works, and we're all ready to go. Alright, so this is all for now. This is Victor at RestoreYourMercedes.com. If this is the part number for the harness, that might be it. 140-440-8005. This is called engine harness body mounted. It's original harness right here, produced in '94. So as you can see it right there on the main connector. Now I believe that's its number because I haven't seen any other numbers all around, but it's all original. It's from US spec car. And yeah, because I had Canadians and European ones come in, and they have the potentiometer that you can, change the resistor on the ignition modules for different ignition timing. US version cars, they don't have that, so you can, because we have steady gasoline, there's like for octane. Well, whatever. I mean, I talk too much. All right, so this is all for now. This is Victor at RestoreYourMercedes.com. Thank you for watching.